Hi, my name is Lisa Tully and I'm the author of The Haunting of Sharon Rectory. Today I'm going to be doing a virtual tour and taking you through the house to talk a bit about our experiences and the house's unnerving history. Sharon Rectory was built in 1775 by Trinity College in Dublin, and it took almost 15 years to fully construct. This former Church of Ireland Rectory housed many families through the centuries, but is most known for its gruesome murders of Rev William Hamilton and Lady Sara Waller. My parents, Lisa and Vincent Tully, bought the house in the beginning of 1996 and started renovations almost straight away. Over the years, we've experienced unexplainable and strange occurrences that has left us thinking, what is really here with us? The rectory had many stories of ghostly experiences passed down from generation to generation. Today I will talk about the unnerving history and some of our experiences that we have had over the last 22 years. Rev William Hamilton played both roles of clergyman and magistrate.
He had a keen interest in geology, which he studied at Trinity College in Dublin. He obtained his fellowship in 1779 and dedicated a large portion of his studies around the Giant's Causeway on the coast of Antrim.
In 1792, Hamilton was one of the many signatories for the British rule. As he was wholly Irish, his pro-British views were no longer being tolerated in the Irish community. This targeted him for assassination by the United Irishmen. He knew the Waller family, as John Waller was the current resident here at Sharon Rectory, and he was a former colleague and friend from Trinity College in Dublin. A horrific incident took place on the 2nd of March 1797. Realised he was a few miles from his former colleague and friend at Sharon Rectory in Manor Cunningham.
It is said that the United Irishmen had told the boatsmen not to let Hamilton across the Swilly as he was a wanted man.
Scared, had hoped to seek refuge at Sharon Rectory until it was safe for them to both travel back to their hometown in Fanet. The Wallers invited them into the rectory, unknowingly putting themselves in danger as the siege lay awaiting in the distance.
As the Wallers invited their guest into the sunroom parlour, the United Irishmen took siege upon the house, shouting for Hamilton and threatening to burn the rectory to the ground if they didn't give him up. The men shot blindly through the windows, hoping to hit Hamilton in the process.
Lady Waller jumps in front of her husband, hoping to shield him as he was paralysed from the waist down so he couldn't run from the gunfire. Lady Waller was shot twice, both in the ear and shoulder. Lady Waller tried to drag herself to safety. She sadly passed away moments later in the servants' quarters.
Regardless of Lady Waller's injuries, Hamilton flees into the reception hallway, running for cover and hiding from the angry mob. He runs to the cellar, hoping he would escape the tunnels that were known to run under the house. As he reaches the back corridor of the cellar, the wall had been bricked up, so there was nowhere for him to run. The men grab Hamilton and pull him through the hallway, where he grasps hold of the banisters and pleads for them to spare his life.
One of the men pulls a hot poker from the adjoining living room in the fireplace and holds it to Hamilton's hands.
He was then dragged out to the step, where he met his horrific end. He was unrecognisable after the attack, as his broken remains lay across the patio walkway. He lay there until the next morning, when the servants opened the shutters to the ghastly sight.
Some of the Waller servants were tried in court, but were acquitted with lack of evidence that they had any involvement in the siege. It is said that most of the United Irishmen fled across seas after the rebellion of 1798. Reverend John Waller, survives the brutal attack to his house and passes away 2 years later. On this very chair, my mother Lisa channeled something that she couldn't control. It was the most terrifying scene we have ever experienced here in Sharon Rectory. In my book, The Haunting of Sharon Rectory, I discuss more about this horrific scene in the last chapter. The most famous haunting of Sharon Rectory is of the Blue Lady. She made herself known to us nightly, which was very terrifying for myself and my parents. In my book, I discuss in more detail of her nightly appearances and how we felt during that time. I will read to you a few paragraphs of what I wrote after seeing her. As the weeks passed, her presence grew stronger. I would lie in bed each night, hoping I wouldn't see her. One dreaded night, I felt the bottom of the bed sink, like someone had sat beside me. I lay there with the covers over my head. I knew it was her. I didn't look up. I knew she would be sitting there watching me. I heard a very faint sound, like humming. What is she doing? Was she trying to comfort me? What do I do? But again, my body froze. It lasted for a few seconds as I lay there under the covers, but she soon disappeared. That had been the scariest night for me since we moved in. She clearly was aware of her surroundings. Did she think that we were intruders in her home? This was becoming unbearable. All I could think about was Mum and Dad have to do something. This house was coming alive. Nightly I would hear the loud footsteps creeping up the back staircase. It sounded like someone with heavy footsteps coming up the stairs one by one, boom, 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 until it reached the landing. Once it approached the door, it stopped. I was terrified. I remember lying there with the duvet over my head, praying to God I would fall asleep so I wouldn't have to hear her or see her again. Summer that year, Victoria decided she wanted to move into the coachman's. This wasn't taken lightly, but she reassured us that whatever resided there wouldn't affect her. She was confident she would be able to handle it, but I had my doubts. I knew what it was capable of. It was clear that something evil was present here. I didn't think it was wise. When Mum told me Victoria had made the decision to move, I says, I'll give her a week. I think Victoria was already affected by this sinister spirit, and moving into the most active part of the building made me very nervous. This was something intelligent, and I had a feeling it may have been influencing her into moving away from the main house. The sudden boost in confidence wasn't normal for Victoria, and I get that she wanted her own space, but I was shocked how she went from being scared to walk around the house to moving into the most eeriest part of the building. Victoria was already in a dark place mentally, with the bullies and trolls constantly taunted her. I knew this could feed off her emotion and become stronger. The weekend had come for Victoria to switch rooms. Mum wanted her to try sleeping in the coachman's for a couple of nights before moving her things. I think too she had her doubts Victoria wouldn't stay long, but she surprised us. The first week she felt fine sleeping in the dreaded room. Maybe she had control over this. During my first few nights in the coachman's, it was unbearable. The feeling of a presence constantly watching you. Noises, the shadow, it was all unpleasant feeling. Meanwhile, Victoria hadn't yet experienced any of this. Maybe this entity had moved from one of the coachman's. Victoria had proven me wrong. Both she and Mum decided it was time for her to officially move into the coachman's. It felt more like Victoria's space when she did. She had it looking so well. She put her own stamp on it. The look of the room almost made the heaviness disappear. But it wasn't long before Victoria became uneasy. This entity was one step ahead. It was as though it made Victoria feel comfortable before creeping slowly in without her recollection. One evening, Victoria went for a shower as she felt a burning sensation along her back. Not reading too much into it, she got out of the shower. She looked in the mirror to see if she could see her back while it felt sore. She noticed 3 large claw marks. Of course, this completely took Victoria back. She remembered how I used to receive the same marks while living there. The next day when I found out, I knew straight away it was caused by this entity. This was the evil that lived among us. This was a way of it mobbing the whole kingdom. I told Victoria that she needed to move out of there as soon as possible and back into her old bedroom. For the first time, she actually listened to me. I think this was the validation she needed, that she didn't have control over this. How can you control something that isn't visible to the naked eye? You could feel its presence back in the coachman's, but it wasn't restricted to here. It began to move throughout the house. I think it was controlling us more than we thought. Even after Victoria's previous experiences, she felt the pull to go back to the coachman's. She wanted this entity to know she wasn't fearing it, but I didn't want her challenging it head on. I knew she was at risk of oppression, just like I was when I was there. I became overwhelmed by the darkness that I couldn't see a way out. This was beyond our control, but Victoria decided she wanted to give the coachman's another try before moving her things back out into her old room. Unexplainable scratches remained in the back of her head. Mid-September, she moved back into the coachman's. She struggled controlling her fear. She would pull the bed covers over her head, praying for the morning to come. Late one Thursday night, she awoke to a coldness around her feet. She began to feel a pressure around her ankle, like something was trying to grab hold of her. Suddenly, she felt a pull of her leg that forced her from the bed. She screamed as she hit the floor. Jumping up, she leaped into the bed, contemplating what had happened. She was scared to move. She looked around the room, but still felt something was there with her. This was the most terrifying experience she had encountered. Not waiting to find out what would happen next, she ran out of the door, crossed the arched bedroom and into her old room. Her heart was beating rapidly. She worried it would follow her. Waking up Mum, she told her what had happened moments before. They both lay there scared to fall back asleep. Because Dad was working away, it was only them remained in the house. It would come after both if they were together. They sat up for the remaining hours that night. I woke the next morning to the message from Victoria explaining what had happened. I was in shock. I started to see my life play out as a horror movie. I knew the physical marks were possible because I encountered them, but I didn't imagine something as terrifying as this would happen. This was now getting out of control.